Welcome back to the Boss Mode walkthrough series. This is Chapter 11, Saizos Throne in Boss Mode. If you look at the Boss Mode mechanic, we have only nature heroes allowed, which is actually good for us because that's going to open up the door for the Goblin team. So if you're looking for a team for normal or champion mode, the Goblin team's actually pretty strong because they do a lot of criticals. So the real question is when we bring along our goblins, who's going to be the fourth? Since we can only have nature, we need to determine who's going to be the other person. So my choice was to bring along Willow because we need that fast hero. And the way things are going, I'm actually out of revive potions, so I'm going to buy a couple of more here. But by bringing along Willow, it at least gives us a chance to analyze the situation and determine how we want to approach it. So when we get those rooms that have four of the fast heroes, we could take the easy way out and use a friend hero to clear it. And then ultimately with the dance party and the normal crits from Zerk and Nub Nub, we're actually going to be able to roll through this pretty well. So it's just a matter of surviving the bad things like this here when you dish out an attack and it doesn't kill them. So fortunately, the Goblin team should be able to survive pretty well. Once you get a critical with Zerk and can get some haste on there, those guys are gonna start dodging some attacks. And fortunately, if they attack Nub Nub, if you get a nice revenge attack in there, you're going to be healing most of the damage anyways. So the worst thing that can happen is when you get those bad rooms to start with, and they just start wreaking havoc on somebody and don't give you a chance to attack. So my Willow is not the strongest Willow. She's not a very high level epic right now, so she's not going to do a lot of killing. But like I said, I brought her along in case I wanted to use a friend hero to help clear some stuff out. Had I brought anybody else, basically it's going to be like the undead team where all of those fast ones, in this case four of them, every one of them is going to get to attack before my hero. So smart play here is to try and negate them. So you could either use some sort of a CC, some sort of a mass death. You could like freeze them. You could slow them down. There's a number of things you could do. Bulbous is actually pretty good choice here because he's going to slow them all down. You could try to freeze them and actually Bulbous just totally wipe them out. And actually Bulbous has been pretty strong lately since the introduction of his epic as well. So I've actually been seeing a lot more people use Bulbous and not so much like it used to be in the past where they only used him to reduce people's energy, and then even after that, just to slow things down. He actually does a fair amount of damage now too, so he's actually a pretty good hero. I think he's really underutilized by a lot of people. But you are going to have probably that second room in every one of these runs. That second room's got a ton of fast people in it. You have to come up with a plan for that, and for me, using a friend hero just seemed like the safest and most reliable route here. Alright, so we're going to finish this room here. We have the taunt on Bramble, and it's up to you if you want to use taunting or not. I tend to not suggest taunting in boss mode runs because of a lot of people have the challenge accepted trait, and ultimately just a bunch of attacks on one person is just, it's enough to kill somebody. So can see that all three of these guys hit, and it's not pretty. But he did survive, which is kind of surprising. I honestly didn't expect him to. I kind of immediately regretted using the taunt as soon as it came up. But if you can get the taunt with the haste on it like this here, it's obviously a little bit better situation for you. But I wouldn't rely on it because if you're unlucky, you're one of those people that you get hit when you're hasted. Your enemies are making hits when they're dazed, or if you're dazed, you're never hitting them. It's just one of those things where you're always on the bad luck side. But we're able to rebound from this one, fortunately, and then the taunt should expire, and then hopefully everybody should be safe again. So taunt is gone, so everybody's free again. We got three fast heroes again. So are we going to be able to soak that damage? We have only Bramble's got haste on them, and we have a defensive buff, so they should be able to handle it. So you can see I contemplated using a friend hero there, but I ultimately thought with the defensive buff, I'd probably be able to handle it. And actually, them attacking Zerk is probably one of the scariest things because he's one of the weakest. But the defensive buff helped quite a bit, and now that it's my turn to attack, they pretty much don't stand a chance. Didn't mention at the beginning, but a lot of times when you go from champion to boss mode, they carry through the mechanics as well. In this case here, they do not have the shifty trait. Because we're forced to use all nature, they remove the previous constraint, but it does happen occasionally where the champion mechanic is also carried forward into the boss mode mechanic, but that's not one of these instances. So in previous runs, we've used the hero Kira as the primary attacker here to kill the knight guards. Also, options, like I said, we're going to be using Yorick to put Mark for Death, but we chose to use Bulbous here to hopefully hit Saizos and slow him down, but he dodged it, which is pretty much to be expected. Bulbous doesn't have a high crit chance, at least not that one, but he can crit. Still dodged again, and that's kind of what's to be expected once he gets his turn. That's part of the reason I tried to slow him down so that I could attack before he was able to do that. So we're going to use Overlord. We're going to try and get as many deaths in here as possible. He's got his crit buffed because of the dance party, so he should do pretty well. And there we are. So now we just have to res Nub Nub to get our 3-star. So fortunately, nobody else died before that. This knight's not going to be able to stop anything. So in the long run here, like I said, the goblins are a good one to run for both of the previous runs. But you do need to have a good fourth person. So if you bring along Kira and the goblins, you should be able to waltz through it almost on auto run if you want to. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, that's going to wrap up this section of Chapter 11. Stick around for the next one, which will be Lair of the Lich. Thanks.